I will now introduce the chair and co-chairs of the session. Chair of this session is Dr. Shantanu Sarkar. He is a chief scientist and group leader, Geotechnical Engineering Group, and professor ACSIR of CSIR Central Building Research Institute, Roorkee. His expertise is in engineering geology, slope stability, landslide disaster mitigation, RS and GIS applications in geohazards. He obtained his MSc in applied geology from IIT Roorkee, MTech in engineering geology from ISM, and PhD in earth sciences from IIT Roorkee, PG diploma in analysis and management of geological risks at the University of Geneva, Switzerland, postdoctoral research at EPFL Lausanne, Switzerland. He was awarded National Geoscience Award by Ministry of Mines, Government of India. And he has also got the Boyce-Kass Fellowship by DST. He has 32 years of professional experience in the area of engineering geology and landslide studies in the Himalayas. He published more than 100 publications in journals and conferences and several chapters in scientific books. So we welcome Dr. Sarkar for this session as chair.
Thank you.
And we have co-chair of the session, Dr. G. Kalyan Kumar. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at NIT Warangal. His expertise is in seismic hazard analysis, soil dynamics, earthquake engineering. He received PhD in 2010 from IIT Madras and worked as principal scientist at National Geotechnical Facility, Dehradun from 2010 to 2013. He published more than 25 national and international journal papers and book chapters. He guided 2 PhDs and currently 3 students are working under him for PhD. We welcome Dr. Kalyan Kumar as co-chair of the session. So now I'll hand over the stage to the chair and co-chair.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Raghuveer Rao, for introducing me. So, very good morning and welcome you all to the last day of the 7th Ikaraji conference, the morning session. And in this session, we have 2 eminent speakers with us. One is Dr. O.P. Mishra from Ministry, Seismology Fellow, Ministry of Earth Sciences, and Professor Bhumi Nathan from IIT Madras. Now, in this, we have 2 lectures, and this, I think it is 45 minutes each. So I'll request.
It is 30 minutes plus 5 minutes as the.
Yes, 5 minutes interactions. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, welcome, Dr. Mishra.
Thank
After
you.
some time, we are interacting. So, I have the opportunity to introduce you as you have to speak on the topic of seismic macrogenesis of cities in India, a way forward for earthquake risk resilient structures. So, before you start, I will have a brief introduction of you. Dr. O.P. Mishra is a fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India, for his pioneering work in applied geophysics, seismology, disaster risk management, spanning over 30 years. Presently, Dr. Mishra is working as Scientist G and Program Head of Seismology and Earth Sciences with Ministry of Earth Sciences. He obtained his master's degree from IIT Dhanbad, now previously it was ISM Dhanbad, in applied geophysics. PhD and DSc from Geodynamics Research Center, Ames University, Japan. Dr. Mishra worked in IDRC, Canada during 1992 to 1995. He also served Geological Survey of India from 95 to 2014. He headed SARC Disaster Management Center, New Delhi as the director. He was visiting as a professor from 2005 to 2006 at GRC, Japan on JSPS fellowship. He also represented SARC member states to several United Nations agencies. He has widely traveled to different countries in the world to execute flagship projects funded by the UNISDR and the World Bank for disaster risk resilience for South Asia. He is the recipient of several awards. Few of them are National Mineral Award 2008 for disaster risk management in applied geosciences, ASRJ Award 2014, NE Talwani Medal 2015. Dr. Mishra has supervised and guided several students in his PhD and MTech program, including 10 scholars for PhD from various universities of India. He has more than 150 research publications on seismology, geophysics, earth sciences, disaster risk reduction in peer-reviewed and international and national journal. So with this brief background, now I request Dr. Mishra, please deliver your invited lecture. Dr. Mishra, please.
Yeah, very good morning, eminent Mr. Chairman and co-chair, my all colleagues and the friends, also students who are attending this very important international symposium. I'm really thankful to the organizer, especially Professor Sitaramji and my friend Professor Jaka, who always behind me to give me topic and then you upload this, all that. I'm really sorry to be late, but I have taken a topic interestingly that it should have the implications to both engineers and scientists and city planners as well as policy planners, disaster managers. And we know this is a very pertinent and very flagship project for the country, and it has a successful story in abroad in the world. So I'll just a glimpse on that. So the topic is taken in accordingly in that way. So the question arises, why seismic microzonation? So the question is that seismic microzonation is one of the tools to reduce the impact of the earthquake shaking. But you can ask that impact of earthquake shaking can be reduced or the disaster can be mitigated by adopting so many measures. Either you predict or forecast the earthquake, or development of earthquake early warning system, or development of earthquake risk resilient structures and design. If you go for 1A and B, we found that with the present state of knowledge, the earthquake cannot be predicted nor be stopped because it is the natural processes. So only is equal to, if you go for the earthquake early warning system, it is also a matter is equal to a very fancy words, but we are not able to do a proper and comprehensive early warning system because it contains so many parameters. So now we are taking early warning only pre-arrival times. That means on the rupture initiated, then on the basis of pre-arrival time, we give the signal to the people. Okay, but there is other things. The magnitude is there, the depth is there, the intensity is there, the geotechnical settings are there. So maybe the earthquake occurs, can be attenuated, can be dissipated, or can be amplified. This type of the consideration is not taken in the instrumentation design till today. So just the information after occurrence of the earthquake, we are told that earthquake occurred. So it is not early earthquake early warning, it is the post-earthquake early warning for disaster phases, which still we have not achieved. So A and B is discarded. And you may ask that the students can have curiosity that why it has not been done, because the earthquake genesis processes, that means physics of the earthquake generating processes, is still not adequately known by us. And because it involves so many parameters of the complex strata of the different strata of the earth. And we don't know that at what diagnostic property the earthquake can be predicted. So we have 10 or 20 or 100 diagnostic properties, but maybe 101 diagnostic property which is not known to us. So it varies from even the area to area, particular earthquake to earthquake. And we know the story of China earthquake in 1975. They predicted the Haicheng earthquake, and it was well predicted, but the same group of scientists just 150 kilometer, 250 kilometer, 150 to 150 kilometer away, Tangshan 1976, they did not able to predict that. So a story says that prediction is impossible. Earthquake early warning means post-earthquake early warning is in the process. So what to do that? We have to only one measure left with us, that is development of earthquake risk resilient structures and designs. That means let earthquake can be occurred in the particular area, or if the earthquake occurs, then how the structures is sufficient to take care of the structures. And predictions involve the anticipation, justification, and expectation. But in the third phase, we cannot able to predict the earthquake in terms of location, in terms of the reference to the precise location, size, and time. So that is the research is going on. That is under authentication. Anticipation, we have already demarcated the zone. Justify all the geotectonic setting, we are telling that this is earthquake prone zone. Expectation, we can also base on the recurrence interval, or you can also on the basis of the how much energy accumulated for how many years in a particular tectonic zone. So you can expect it with reference to, without reference to precise location, size, and time, but authentication left. That's why we're not able to do that. And there is a lot of the disasters happening to the infrastructure and structures. This is just 2005 Muzaffarabad earthquake. That is the Kashmir earthquake. You can see that so many structures get damaged. And this is the well-built structure, school building where the student going to school is killed all of the sudden. So you can say that about 100,000 people dead mostly in the Pakistan, that is in Pak-occupied Kashmir, due to the occurrence of 2005 7.9 earthquake, 7.8 earthquake. So if you go for this in the Chichi, I am not going to show you the main disasters images of the India, because you know that we have not so much a stronger earthquake risk resilient structure. But this country is supposed to, the China, Taiwan and China, even Japan, I'm going to show you the story. They are very much developed state to, with respect to the developing of their building design code. So this Chichi was actually designed on the basis of taken all care, but Chichi 1999 earthquake is also able to damage the infrastructure, vital structure, that is dam. So this indicates that earthquake never respects the geographical boundary and it can hit anywhere at any point of time. So in these cases, I just borrowed the slides from the Professor Raghu Kant. He recently made a very, very comprehensive analysis, and he showed that a total events of about more than the 68,000 and different of the magnitudes, the entire is equal to entire Indian subcontinent regions are equal to are associated with the earthquake. Particularly in India, none of the part of the India is devoid of the earthquakes. So it justifies that earthquake can hit in anywhere. So earlier geological studies telling that some part is the devoid of the earthquake, but there is no such type of the zone in the India. This indicates that, or this demands that we have to have a proper mechanism we have to know how to coexist with the earthquake occurrences, because India is one of the biggest or one of the important hotspot of the earthquake occurrences, because we are surrounded by the collisional and seismotectonic zone in the north, that is the Himalayan zone, and also in the south you can go for the Andaman Nicobar region where the subduction tectonics which is going on, and we have seen that these are the most prone zones. Not only that, if you come to the intraplate zone, there is the Bhuj earthquake, we have the 2001, earlier there was the Kutch earthquake 1819. There is a series of the earthquake occur in also in the plate interior, and Latur in the 1993 is one of them. So even the lower magnitude occurred in the Latur up nearing the 6th magnitude. There are the huge disasters, and there was the loss of the lives about 20,000 of the people, 10,000 of people in Latur, and the Bhuj about 20,000 of people. So many structures damages. So this gives us the idea that our geoscientists, the engineers, seismotectonics, all they made, and they make a seismic zonation map of the country. And this zonation map is best equal to an attenuation law. So they divided the zone 2 to 5 because 1 zone and 2 zone has the same behavior. So they categorize into low risk zone, moderate risk zone, high seismic risk zone, and very high risk zone, depending on the intensity and ground acceleration. But it has some factors compromised, and we need that if seismic hazard zonation map is correct, then there was no need there is no need of the seismic microzonation or is equal to a particular city or particular area. What is actually the compromising factor is that you can imagine that take a particular zone 3 or 4, and if the almost all buildings are made on the same design by the same architect, same design, same engineers, and using the same materials, means every parameters of the designing and the architecture and the material used in the entire building of the zone 4, then a particular earthquake of magnitude of particular depth occurs, then entire building should be damaged, the same is equal to same damaging pattern. But it was found that it does not follow that type of the thumb rule. So that means why? It is found that a very dilapidated structure near to the source zone is found to be a standstill. There is no disasters, or there is no erasing to that structure nearing to the source to the ground. But if you are going away, a very well built structure, you found that the structure raised to the ground. That means there is some geotechnical factors or some equal to some factors of the related to the geotectonics which is not taken into account in the seismic hazard zonation map. We have taken a maximum credible earthquake, known is equal to epicentral distance, and then we equal to do a probabilistic analysis to do this. And on this way, there is a lot of the probabilistic analysis in 189 to 2016 seismic zonation map, and PGA contours they made, and they found that the peak ground acceleration varying from zone 2 to zone 4 accordingly. So more than 0.36 zone, 0.36 G is your zone in your zone 5, and similarly 0.16 to 0.18 zone in the zone 2. So this type of the things they haven't taken place. But this was just equal to a crude analysis so far done by the earlier studies, which is not actually the controlling or telling about how the disasters can be mitigated if the infrastructure structures can be made. So if you see this structure, I am just going to show you this cartoon. And this is my very favorite cartoon. You can see that for the students I put it, that if the earthquake occurs, the impact of earthquake shaking in all four trees is found to be different. Though it is very closely spaced, so there is no impact on this is equal to first tree, but there is impact on in all three trees. One tree is falling down, two trees felt the shaking, but they didn't fell down to the ground. What does it mean? That means that the foundational material which has coupling to the root of the each and every tree here showing is different. So geomechanical strength of the foundational material is playing the role that can have amplification at a predominant frequency. And that is the main concern we have to deal with by using the seismic microresonance technique. And you can see that the physics says that if it is the basement, means harder rock, the earthquake occur here, then there is no much amplifications because it is the harder rock, right? But if this earthquake passing through from the harder rock to the softer materials, that is deep sediments, then you found that there is a significant amplification of seismic wave, and that's why they started to create a trouble on the structure, and it will collapse if the shaking frequency matches to the spectral structure frequency. Then it will be collapsed and the structure happens. So that is the philosophy of the seismic microresonance. So seismic microresonance is subdividing a zone into a smaller areas having different potential for hazardous earthquake, and the earthquake effects depend on the ground geomorphological attributes consisting of the geological, geomorphological, and equal to other factors. So the parameters of the geology and is equal to geomorphology of soil coverage thickness and the rock outcrop depth are equal to some of the important geomorphological attributes which can be addressed in the seismic microresonance study. Other attributes are the earthquake parameters, which are estimated by the hazard analysis and effect of the local soil, or is equal to for site responses or earthquakes, which I wanted to mean that the shear wave velocity or the response spectra, I want to see that. And peak ground acceleration from the deterministic or probabilistic approach, amplification and site response parameter, liquefaction potential. If this zone is in the landslide zone, then we have to see the landslides effect or sinking zone due to earthquakes, or is equal to it was the earthquake induced landslide zone is not. That was just like in Himalaya. So some of the important seismological attributes have been taken into consideration for the seismic microresonance. Since I am in the Ministry of Earth Sciences, being a director of the National Center of Seismology, so I would like to give you some information about subsequent how this concept evolved in the country. So National Disaster Management Authority has taken a leading role for that to provide or to sensitize the scientific and engineering community to come forward to provide a yardstick for the proper earthquake risk management. So National Core Group of the Earthquake Risk Mitigation has been formed. An urban earthquake vulnerability reduction project has been initiated in 30 cities in seismic and 30 seismic zone, about 38 cities and cities in seismic zone, and 3 to 4 and 5 with more than 500,000 population. That means we are taking a zone 3, 4 and 5 having population more than 50 lakhs, means 500,000. So we choose that city, and earthquake safe construction guideline for masonry buildings in different zones have been provided. Review of the buildings bylaws and everything is analyzed in those meetings. Retrofitting for the lifeline buildings, I would like to give my humble tribute to Professor Arya, who were also in the leading role as chairman of this committee. So retrofitting a lifeline building, including earthquake safety analysis, lifeline buildings in Delhi has been initiated, and various national level training, education programs, capacity building programs, risk resilient construction have been initiated. Roorkee IIT is playing an important role. Earthquake engineering department, civil engineering department, they're playing the role, and they were also the part of the sensitizing the training program, trainer for trainees through the South Asia Disaster Management Center. And I was leading. I have already witnessed the 3 to 4 training program by earthquake engineering department of the Roorkee. So National Earthquake Risk Mitigation Project has been initiated, and National School Safety Program has been initiated. Then the first attempt of seismic microresonance of any urban area, industrial as well as population center, was first to carried out in the world in Japan. So we are borrowing most of the technique from Japan, because Japan has given a very successful story, proven track record that they have proved that in the 2011, in the 11th March tsunami-genic earthquake of 9 magnitude, did not cause any damage to the structure of Sendai city. That means it proved that if the building design code will be sanguine, it was as per the code, it was as per taking all parameters, then we can mitigate the loss of the buildings and the loss of the lives. So we can take in this, and general methodology during the seismic microgeneration region can be divided into 4 major categories. Just ground motions parameters we are using, site characterization we are doing, assessment of local site effects with includes so many like amplification factors, predominant frequency, liquefaction, hazard line tsunami, and preparation of the seismic microgeneration map based on the GIS, geographical information system based map, so that it can be friendly user or the planners and city planners and user and policy making planners, they can use and they can assimilate their conclusions for that. So it is a very complicated process because you are dealing with the complicated impact of the earthquakes. That's why the seismic microgenesions provided a holistic framework that consists of the seismological investigations, geological and geotechnical investigations, and thematic integrations. And then after doing that, we have to give the output in ground peak acceleration, liquefaction potential, geology and geomorphological implications, overall risk, and the population based risk and a structural based risk we estimate. So what happens in the NCS, seismic microgeneration report on NCR Delhi has already been done by, but I would like to mention that we have a SOP, that is Manual of the Seismic Microgeneration and Handbook of Seismic Microgeneration for the country. It was approved by the High Power Committee, and this is actually SOP which is followed by NCS, Ministry of Earth Sciences, for each and every city. So initially we have taken the first phase 30 cities with the entire budget of the 90 crores, and we have floated a global tender to get the best physical to brain, best technical solutions for that. And 4 cities were selected, where IIC Bangalore with the second involved, and another city they are doing with the Bhubaneswar, Mangalore, and Coimbatore. And Fugro is doing the detailed seismic microgeneration of Chennai city according to the SOP. So seismic microgeneration report of Delhi so far has been released, and it was being used by the Delhi Municipal Corporation, Delhi Management Authority, Delhi Disaster Management Authority. We circulated the report. It is also on the website. We also released the report on Calcutta, and some regional reports of Sikkim, Guwahati, Jabalpur, Bengaluru, Gandhidham, Kandala, Ahmedabad. It has been done on a sponsorship of the Ministry of Earth Sciences by the different institutions. And then the RFP, we have to detailed geophysical, geotechnical investigation floated in 2016, but 2017-18 we able to select the 4 cities as I mentioned you by the ISC Bangalore and SECON in collaboration they are doing, and the Fugro is doing with some IIT their partner. So geophysical and geotechnical investigation 30 cities, Kolkata completed. Jammu is under investigation through our program appraisal monitoring committee of the university. So among the 30 cities, we are now 12 cities we are completing, we are under process. 1 city, 2 cities has already been done, 2 cities on PAMC. So remaining 14 cities have to done. So this is the microgeneration cities we have plotted you that in the zone wise, and some is equal to some zones which has been already done is showing that which cities has been already done. Okay. So come to this the future planning. We have already, you can see that already started undergoing in this line of the gray line, and this is the light blue line we are doing. So cities of the under microgenations are still left, that is 14 cities on this by 22-24 we are going to do by the institutional partner with the NCS. So what parameter we are doing in seismic microgeneration? Geophysical and seismological parameters as per SOP, microtremor survey we are doing in the grid of very close grid, 500 meter by 500 meter. Downhole shear wave velocity testing we are doing at each and every site. So conducted 10% of the total number of the drill sites, we are doing the DHT test. Multi-channel analysis of the Maswaj is also doing, conducted by 25% of total number of the drill sites. So each drill site decided in number of the grids. So total number of the grids, how many 500 by 500 were taken, and out of that grid we are taking the SPT survey of the 10%, and SPT, SCPT and DCPT were also doing to find out all geotechnical parameters that can be helpful to understand the geomechanical strength of the subsurface materials. So a standard penetration test is to be conducted. 10 numbers of the boreholes per site in 3-meter interval, and seismic cone penetration is there. I would like to mention you that in your high-level technical committee, Professor Ravi Jaka is one of the member, and Professor Ramana is there as a chairman. And we are getting a lot of good feedback, and we are on verge of the completion of the 4 cities. Rigorous flaws we are detecting, and they are repeating, and good quality of the data is being generated. Because good quality of the data is good quality of the report, we will be able to generate that. So cyclic triaxial test we are also doing for the selected specimen. Resonant column test is also doing to corroborate that. And so many tests, we are all geoscientists, geotechnical engineers. So bulk density we are doing, specific gravity doing, natural water content doing to find out actually the weak intrusive materials, whether really the compositions of the soil at the foundation layer is apt for installing or constructing a very strong building for the purpose or not. Because there is the vital installations, there is a critical installations infrastructures. We have to take all the parameters of the city and also in the future plan of the development. So we're doing all the geotechnical parameters estimates for this. And you may ask that geophysical investigation, what to do? I mentioned microtremor is give you an idea of the ambient vibrations to find out where the amplification taking place and where the at what predominant frequency. And this is actually the first material which guides us that where borehole to be drilled. So if the high amplification zone we are doing, moderate amplification we are also doing the drilling for SPT test, and also the low amplification, that means the very high frequency predominant there, we are very low predominant frequency, we are also doing that. So all 3 categories are taking place. Downhole test we are doing for the shearing wave velocity at the very close space, and mass balls is also taking to corroborate our stiffness of the ground of the geotechnical engineering purposes. So if you come for all the tests, because it is a very preliminary, so I will just give you the glimpse that the seismic cone penetration test is an effective method for directly measuring the shear wave velocity of soils in situ, because SPT is giving the empirical correlations derived between the soil properties and the penetration resistance, but SPT giving the further information. And dynamic cone penetration test, DCPT, is used to measure the strength of the in situ soil and the thickness and the location of subsurface soil layers. So you can see that how we are trying to peep inside the subsurface material heterogeneity that can give us the idea that during the earthquake shaking, how the amplification can take place, or how the attenuation of the energy can take place depending on the material competency or material stiffness coefficient. So and similarly, the triaxial test we have been conducted by this load control technique to result used for the evaluating the ability of the soil to resist shear stress included in soil and mass due to the earthquake and other cyclic loading. We have to find out that how is equal to how is stronger the earthquake and how much heavier structure it can hold on that foundation. So comparatively, the resonant column test for the torsional and longitudinal vibration sample is also used, solving the equation of the wave propagation using the theory of elasticity. And Attenborough limit is the basic measure of the critical water content of the fine-grained soil, so that it can be shrinkage limit and plastic limit and liquid limit can also be ascertained. So these are the very comprehensive tools to find out the geotechnical behavior. At the same time, you find out the compositional aspect on the terms of the bulk density and its specific gravity, so that we can find out that whether there is the intrusive material, where there is the fluid intrusions are there, where it is the fluid fractured rock matrix is there in the rock material or not. So all these things we are doing by applying the geotechnical investigations and coefficient of the consolidations, complete grain size analysis, and direct shear wave we are doing. So result of seismic microgeneration for city of the Coimbatore, which is under process, we are going to show you that these are the actually geological map of the Coimbatore city, and this is geomorphological map of the city of the Coimbatore. You can see that there is a lot of the lithological variations, about 10 to 12 lithological variations in the city, and different compositions of even the clay and the gneiss, and so many the geologists can be mapped by the geologist. Geomorphological see, you can also do about 10 geomorphological strata you are able to get it. So under these conditions, we have to get the seismic microgenesis of the cities, and by taking the one map and creating all the available faults in the city, the lineaments in the city, because the earth is a factory of faults, and so many geological structural defects. So we found out that, and then we make a grid. You can see the 500 so close grids we have taken. So none of the part is left. Every part is well covered by applying the geophysical, geological, seismological, and geotechnical survey for the city. By doing that, we've taken the Coimbatore city is 260.217 square kilometer, and we create the H by V ratios, find the field survey, and this is the field survey. We are going that and measuring for each and every point, and doing that, we able to get a predominant frequency and found that higher peak predominant frequency corroborate with the higher formations of higher or stronger geological formations, while the lower is equal to predominant frequency is corroborated with the weaker is equal to geological formations. And these are actually the guideline to go for the drilling. And simply amplification map, it is also corroborating where is the high predominant frequency. You can see the least is equal to amplifications, and there is the least is equal to frequency, there is the high is equal to amplification. So there is a very much good correlations, and we are able to do the drilling. The work is going on, so we are not able to assimilate the map, but this is the field observation we have seen for undergoing city. In Delhi city, which is already completed, we have just snap. It is although it is in the website of the NCS on MOES, the peak ground acceleration of the engineering bedrock. We plotted and got this each and every city, and we found that the variability, that how is equal to how it is the taking place of the engineering bedrock of the Delhi city. Again, we find out the hazard index map of the Delhi city, which is used by the planners, and it is also based on the almost all applying the techniques to find out the Jamuna rivers, which is so much hazardous. It is just the blue curvy line in Jamuna, and it is associated with the very high hazard index 0.6 to 0.84, which that means greater than 0.6 is the high hazard zones. And there is already package in Delhi, so many packets of the Delhi, which is the high hazard zones, and this is the moderate type 0.2 to 0.04, moderate type of the green zones are there. These are the most important factor for the engineers and the town planners they are using, and now the BIS is using this type of the concept that we can have a very seismic prompt the hazard zonation map for the city. So application of the seismic hazard zonation map is earthquake risk resilient dwellings. You know that earthquake risk resilient vital structures, Rashtrapati Bhavan, Red Fort, and all India Gate, Taj Mahal, we are all taking the city. Now we are extending to a smart cities also. So earthquake risk resilient critical structure, dam and bridges, roads. This will help to find out the very earthquake risk resilient infrastructures, and generated for the NCS, and it can be the inputs for generating the seismic hazard risk resilient model for the city where the microgeneration has been done. So you may ask that how it contribute to the disaster risk management. You know that the disaster has a cycle, that pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster. But if you divide these disasters in a just a section by 50%, means post-disaster and pre-disaster. So post-disaster, we don't know post-disaster how bigger will be the earthquake and how greater impacts will be there. So it is mostly the post-disaster measure is uncertain. But pre-disaster measure in which the microgeneration or the building design code, it is there. So if you will prepare before, that 50% marks you are getting, so you must be passed. But this 50% marks you will zero. Sometimes your preparation is not up to the mark, and the earthquake impact is havoc. So you cannot give the guarantee that the post-disaster risk management is able to reduce or mitigate your disaster impact. But in the pre-disaster measures, that is your prevention and precautions engineering solution, if you adopt it, then you can sure that we can mitigate at least 50% to the 50% chances of the disaster. At least more than that is quite possible. So it depends on that how good you are using the technique. So future strategy for so many parameters we have been taken, that it is the integrated parameters, so that you can have a proper evaluations of our data, proper the practices can be used. Even we are taking the conventional practices and good practices, and then we can generate a model so that we can have a very good resilient map for the city. And therefore, if the seismic microgeneration delivered product can be used in the earthquake resilient model by the new structure, and if this is the old structure, it can be retrofitted as suggested by so many documents. Professor Arya has developed a document of rapid response of the building, inspection and scanning of the building, and then you can do the old building. He tried also in the Jammu, the hospitals, and it was successful. So if you do that, you can sustainable risk resilient setup, and we can have a safety of the school, safety of the hospital, safety of the prisons. because if there's a prison, the prisoners will come out on the disasters, it will another chaos. Okay, so safety to the vital installation, safety to infrastructures, economic prosperity of the area will be certain because recurrence losses will be reduced if our infrastructures will be the earthquake risk resilient. The social chaos, earthquake and trauma management is also helpful because you can say that, you can say with just a light story. When I was in Japan in 2000, Totori earthquake happened, I started to fade away. My professor caught my hand and he told that, okay, please enjoy the shaking of the earthquake. I was telling that this is crazy, but he told that, no, I know that this is equal to building is resilient to the magnitude 8 earthquake, and this area is not going to generate the magnitude more than 8 earthquake, and that earthquake magnitude is 6.9. So you can say that how sanguine, how engineer and the professors, clinicians, technocrats, scientists can able to convince their model if it is the almost all augmented with interdisciplinary science. So concluding remark is that recent earthquake in Indian subcontinent have demonstrated expertise terms that there is still to do. And because the seismic zone 4, 5, and 3 constitute about more than 56% of the country area. So seismic hazard zonation is a crude zonation which can give you idea. So you can do that zonification of the zones further for more comprehensive and cohesive seismic zonation map, micro zonation map for the better structures. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for such a wonderful talk on seismic microzonation. In a so short time, you have touched upon all the input parameters which are necessary for seismic microzonation. Particularly, it is very interesting to know in our country what is the future program. So thank you very much. Before I give this, I request Dr. Kalyan to see how many questions we have. I just want to ask or want to know from Dr. Mishra that for seismic microzonation in Himalayas particularly, because that landslides and landslide is one of the most critical input because most of the damages are created by earthquake triggered landslide, as we have seen also in a recent 2017 Sikkim earthquake. So what do you think that for Himalayans, the cities, on which scale we should go for seismic microzonation, as you have handled many projects?
I think, the seismic microzonation tells that it was the as precise, as smaller scale as possible. So today is microzonation, tomorrow maybe the picozonation or femtozonations or nanozonation. So in the today 500, you can see the 1:10,000 the scale we are doing the microzonations of the city. 1:25,000 we are doing city. But Himalaya is too risky, but terrain is not allowing too much. So I think at least 1:25,000 scale we have to do for that. But if allowed in the some areas, which is the plain area or the plateau area, we can go for the 1:10,000. So it is the most important. And landslide is taken into account for the Himalayan. Without landslide consideration, the seismic microzonation in the Himalayan areas, it is incomplete. And you rightly mentioned that this is the taken that landslide sinking zone and landslide zone. We have to take into account because there is the rain-induced landslide also. There is the earthquake-induced landslides also. So they are making that I told in Geological Survey of India to make archive that which is the landslide associated with the rain-induced and which landslide is associated with the earthquake-induced. Then it will be better to understand that where the the processes will be used. And you are the landslide expert. I think this is the most important ingredient for the Himalayan city. We are planning for that, and I think to take all the view so that the country can have a very good.
Actually, why I ask you, because that in the earthquake-induced landslide, most of the landslides are rock fall, because jointed rock. So 1:25,000 is difficult to map all this. So probably we should go for 1:10,000. That's what is my this thing. So I thought that because you are sitting in a you are handling so many projects. So you may take this thing that if we can increase at least in the major cities.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. Okay. So now, Dr. Kalyan, I request you to please handle conduct this question answer session quickly.
Sir, good morning, sir. Very good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, very nice lecture, sir. It is very much useful to the practicing engineers and locally education people and all the people, everything. Why the microzonation is required and all those things. And the question answers point of view, some good number of questions are there. So that is why I am not going to take that. We are going to share your email IDs to the participants, and they are going personally. They are going to contact with you, sir. Some
Okay.
question, one or two questions from my side, sir. So for the microgenation point of view, as I am in the southern India from Telangana, so I am insisting my students to do the PSHA analysis for the Warangal city. So it is better to take the 300 kilometer circular region or 500 kilometers, sir.
Oh, that depends that whether the geological faults are there in that zone or not. If the known faults are there, you can extend that. But if there is no known faults, you can have a very closure spacing. Okay. So always closure spacing is good for you. Okay. So you have to take the geological considerations of the area in Telangana, because geomorphology, geology is must studied prior to going to the investigation. So it dictates that where your circle will increase.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more question, sir, for the zoning point of view. And what is the criteria we have to select for the zoning point of view, sir? Because I gone through the NDMA reports and all those things. They divided into n number of zones. But what is the criteria for behind that one? We are not. They didn't discuss it about that one. They didn't put a word.
Yeah. It is a very good question. You have seen the last map I've shown in Delhi. There is a hazard index map, right? This hazard index map taken care of the PGA, liquefaction potentials, amplification site, and predominant frequency, means the vulnerability aspect they have taken. So based on the not only the PGA, based on the PGA liquefaction potential and also the soil stiffness coefficients, we have to take all the idea that which zone is most vulnerable. So it should not be based on one parameters. We have taken the many parameter as an integration, and then we have given a composite hazard index map. Okay. So the hazard donation map, you have taken the PGA map and recurrence interval, peak ground acceleration, we are telling okay. But peak ground acceleration has attenuative, some type of the compromise there. So liquefaction, sometimes it was not catched by, you cannot be detect, cannot be analyze the potential, liquefaction potential of peak ground acceleration type of thing. So I think it is the composite of all parameters, whatever you measured. I have given, I share my slides to all of you. So these slides I've taken that so many parameters why you are measuring. So out of these parameters, you make a composite that weightage. We have to give the weightage. Okay. On weightage basis, you can do the scale zoning map. So let it be the zone 4 to zone 5 in the country. But in microgenation, it could be many zones depending on the conditions of the soil or stiffness coefficient, its own behavior. So one zone can have n number of the zones, whether you are what you want. Suppose in the building, you have one house. You have to make a zone of your corner that if the earthquake happen, which corner is going to damage first? Which part of my house is going to damage first? So preciseness depends on composite factor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I am going hand over to our Sarkar sir, because the questionnaire point of view will communicate with the Singh sir directly.
Okay.
So many number of questions are there.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarkar Saab. It is my pleasure that we saw each other on the cyber. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
I am really wishing all the best. This is international symposium. It was really well advertised, well broadcasted. It is very good and very good reputations. Thanks to you all, and I'm very happy to be part of that. So because without engineer support, the scientific science out inputs or outputs cannot be translated into technology. So technology implication and engineering, I think I need all the help from you. NCS will be always in close contact with all the engineers. NDMA and BIS also we are a member of that. So work in coordination. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So please excuse, I leave because I have one meeting, another meeting. So I ask my excuse from you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ji, on behalf of organizing committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So now we have the second lecture with us. That will be by Professor Bhuminathan. Professor Bhuminathan, okay. So that now, friends, he is going to talk on numerical modeling of basin effects on earthquake ground motion in the Kutch Basin. So it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Bhuminathan. A brief introduction for him. Dr. Bhuminathan is currently working as professor in the Geotechnical Department of Civil Engineering in IIT Madras. He has received his doctorate from Moscow Civil Engineering Institute, Moscow. Prior to that, he did his post-graduations, MSc Engineering at Russian University, Moscow. He has more than 30 years of experience in research and teaching. And you know all, Professor Bhuminathan is a renowned professor in his field. His publication includes 59 papers in international national journals, 117 conference proceedings in different international and national conferences. And he has also written 14 book chapters in different books. In the membership, he is a member of the International Society of Soil Mechanics, Foundation Engineering, International Association for Computer Methods and Advances in Geomechanics, and the Foundation Institute India. He is a fellow in the Indian Geotechnical Society and an associate member of the American Society of Civil Engineering. He is also a life member of the Indian Society of Earthquake Technology and Indian Society of Rock Mechanics and Tunneling Technology. So with these very brief introductions, though he has several things to note, but with this very brief introduction, I request Professor Bhuminathan to please deliver your lecture. Professor Bhuminathan, please.
Thank you, Professor Shantanu Sarkar, Chairman of the session, and Dr. Kalyan Kumar, Co-Chairman of the session, for an introduction about me. I first thank the organizers of this international conference, particularly Professor EGS and Dr. Ravi Jakka, as well as coordinator of this session, Dr. Raghuveer Rao, for giving opportunity to share. Recently done some work on numerical modeling of basin effect and earthquake ground motion in Kutch Basin. Content of my presentation, initially introduction, then basically we are introducing the seismic tectonics and seismicity of Kutch Basin, and earlier studies on this basin effect in the same region. And finally, our modeling, initially a two-dimensional nonlinear modeling was carried out using finite difference method. This model is validated with the recorded data. And also based on this model, we'll be studying effect of various input motion on the seismic response of Kutch Basin. And also we are comparing with the one-dimensional site response analysis actually. Then briefly I will be discussing on 3D numerical modeling, particularly by linear approach. And finally, summary and conclusions. Of course, we all know that in January 26, 2001, there is an earthquake struck in Kutch region. It caused about 20,000 fatalities and economic loss about $5 billion actually. So after this case, Indian Seismic Code also revised. You all know that Dr. Mishra just shown that revised the seismic zonation map actually. But it is noted that even though Dr. Mishra presented very well about microzonation, but I am not sure that whether they will be considering basin effect in the microzonation studies. If it is not there, they have to also consider the basin effect when they are developing microzonation maps actually. And there are several field studies carried out by particularly NGRI, National Geophysical Research Institute, Hyderabad, and they have shown that there is a basin effect, indicate the amplification in selected location. But however, there is no detailed numerical studies on the site response carried out. Actually, I had earlier project of seismic microzonation for Chennai city actually. During that time, I used to participate in MOA's project monitoring committees. During that time, Dr. Mandal of NGRI presented extensive studies in the Kutch region, both geophysical study as well as strong motion instrumentation studies. And he has shown that there is a basin effect. There is also basin effect occurred in addition to the local site effect in this Kutch Basin. So that is basically motivated for us to study this numerically about this model and compare some of the recorded data by NGRI. The recorded data is not by us, it's only by NGRI. So this study mainly attempts to develop a numerical model for the Kutch Basin actually. So initially, just I will introduce. I am not a seismologist or I am not a geophysicist. I am a geotechnical engineering. But anyway, for engineers and others, those who are not familiar, I would like to introduce about this region actually. First, assessment tectonics of the region actually. You all know that this is after the Himalayan ridge is the most active seismic zone. It is located stable peninsular India as well as active plate margin on the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate and Australian plate, also Arabian plate actually. So the epicenter is located at a distance about 300 kilometers from these three plates actually. And regarding the seismicity, the Kutch region in India as well as New Madrid in USA are the only two regions in the world has experienced this great interplate earthquake that is magnitude more than 7.7 actually. These are the major earthquake occurred. But if you between 1821 and 1996, there is a 16 moderate earthquake recorded or observed. Among that, the most damaging one was 1956 Anjar earthquake. So after that, we have this 26 January 2000 latest earthquake 7.7 actually. Even after that, even after 5 years of this major event, there are aftershock events. Magnitude 5.46 also occurred on 6th April 2006. So therefore, it is interesting to basically we are validating our model. Mostly they recorded after aftershock recordings only we have utilized for validation of the model. Then Kutch Basin is basically has many sub-basin bounded by parallel fault, namely several fault is there, North Parkal fault, Western Belt fault, Kodangar fault, South Wagad fault, Kutch Main fault. So several faults are there. These basins are located from north to south in the Kutch Basin actually. And the thickness of the, if you see that it is shown here, this map actually, it shows the different location of this what we call fault map actually, and various faults are marked actually. It is all taken from the literature, it's not done by us. And of course, aftershock data was extensively studied by National Geophysical Research Institute, particularly under the leadership of Dr. Mandal. And they have used HNC epicenter accelerometers as well as broadband sensors actually. In addition to that, they have also done shear wave log city measurement at 249 sites by MSW tests as well as BS logging. Here shown the shear velocity map developed by Dr. Mandal. And from that, they arrived also indirectly the thickness of the medium varies from 0.9 kilometer to 1.5. Variation of this basin actually is also established actually. But there are earlier few studies are there actually. Qualitatively in a raid in 1960 also qualitatively discovered basin effect during 1819 in Kutch earthquake actually. But the site amplification using by inversion of stand motion data revealed efficient site response at Kutch Basin. If you see the SWADA, they have used the Nakumara technique. Coordinator, they used the HVSR technique. And Malagini used both the SSR as well as the technique. All the cases, they have shown that there is a large site amplification occurred that could be due to the basin effect. Various basin at various locations, you can see that you have various ground motion amplification that indicate the amplification that is mainly due to the not only propagation of shear wave, that's what we are considering in the one-dimensional propagation analysis. Here, because of addition to that, these waves are generated surfaces at the close to the surface, that is basically causing variation in the ground motion. That's what we call as the basin effect. So now I'll be discussing the 2D nonlinear modeling of the Kutch Basin of big fine difference method. The study area we have taken mainly the study have mainly shown longitude range from 1710 east to 1740 east longitude. The thickness varies from 0.5 kilometer and the width is 25 kilometer. Otherwise, the depth width ratio is about 0.05. And the area is taken such a way that where we have this strong motion locations are available actually. There are 3 locations you can see that band, near and NGS. Okay, one is the center, other one is center of the basin. This is the center. Other one is between edge and center. This is the edge actually. These are the 3 forest data available, recorded data available actually. So therefore, we have selected this region for our study actually. And only that we are not very sure about the bedrock slope. So therefore, we have varied the bedrock slope 3, that is 10 degree, 20 degree and 30 degree at the west side of the basin is assumed actually. And I already mentioned that the strong motion stations are located at the 3 different regions of the basin, center region between, that is what is the 3 locations for us interest actually. So for that numerical basin model, we have considered double layer system with 30 meter thick medium dense sand as the top as well as 20 thick dense sand as the bottom layer and followed by hard rock layer actually. And the discretization done by a quad element, the discrete elements based on this criteria. Of course, I forgot to tell that we have utilized FLAC 2D for our analysis. As per that analysis, we have discretization done by this criteria actually, where the lambda minimum wavelength is 1/10 of the minimum wavelength we have considered. That is considered by minimum shear maximum minimum shear velocity divided by 10 times the maximum frequency can be expected propagated in this region actually. And the mixed discretization scheme also adopted actually. The boundary conditions of free field, the main grid are coupled to free field grid by viscous dashpots. So these are the material model, nonlinear model, constitutive model used actually, plastic model, where you can see the properties wise. Of course, we are talking about 3 layers actually, and the density, shear velocity is relatively higher shear velocity. So this shear velocity also obtained from the published literature data, published data available for this region. So from that we calculate the shear modulus, and also for typical value for the cohesion and friction value assumed for this type of soils actually. Of course, rock medium considered as a elastic only. Addition to that, we have also considered hysteretic damping in conjunction with this nonlinear anisotropic model, where the modulus degradation damping curves proposed by Seed and Idris, well-known curve proposed by granular material, that is utilized actually. So this incremental shear modulus is nonlinear simulation is given by the G is the small strain modulus of the material, MT is the normalized tangent modulus. And basically, we have taken for input motion the recorded motion, Sivalaka motion actually. It is shown that this recorded motion has given input for our response analysis. You see that this is the 2006 motion. Its magnitude is 4.8 only. The PGA is peak ground acceleration, horizontal acceleration is 0.170. The predominant frequency 7 Hz. Otherwise, of course, from the Fourier spectra, you see that it is spreading up to 10 Hz. The predominant frequency is 7 Hz. Otherwise, it's a basically high frequency content earthquake actually. And part of the analysis, initially we have developed gravity allowed to develop to model to reach the equilibrium condition, and the maximum unbalanced force and displacement monitored to show that current evolution. Then these response analysis carried out for this input motion, Solaka motion. And finally, we have adapted these ground response at 20 location at regular interval as well as at rock outcrop. Here you can see that how these the triangular basin, how this is discretized. This basically, even though we can get at any point the response, but for our analysis, if you see that we are interested to have nearly these three regions we have considered: basin center, center to edge, and basin edge actually. So based on the criteria of accurate wave propagation sensitivity analysis, the element size is selected 1.5 meter actually. So this is a typical time history recorded, both horizontal and vertical component. If you see that at rock outcrop is a 0.48 G, but at the basin edge we are getting 0.6 G actually. And between center, this is particular for 10-degree slope actually. We have done 3 slope actually, what we are talking about. For 10-degree slope, we are getting the tiny step acceleration. The rock outcrop 0.48, basin edge is a 0.6. Basin edge and center is 0.95. This is basically edge is 0.8. Vertical component, if you see that there is not much, mainly slight increase in the between edge and center only actually. The significant amplification of this peak ground acceleration observed in the horizontal component. So maximum amplitude observed at the region between the center and edge actually. And contrary to the convention, believe that amplitude is higher at basin center than the basin edge actually. And basically, we will be comparing for 3 bedrocks slope, 10 degree, that what we have shown here at 10 degree. Similar thing you can show for 2030. It is here we have shown that the site amplification, that is basically in terms of Fourier spectra. That is a ratio of Fourier amplitude to the surface actually. That is what we call site amplification in terms of frequency content actually. You can see that in case of 10 degree slope, and what we are seeing in the bottom, this is 3 area. This is middle of the basin, this band record section. This is edge and bits, edge and middle. This is at the edge actually. So you can see that there are several peaks are there actually. Some cases multiple peaks, and some cases single peak actually. For example, here single peak. There are multiple peaks. So it depends on the slope and the location. The peaks are also varies actually. So maximum amplification factor basically, if you see that obtained at the basin center as well as between the center and edge region in the numerical model actually. If you look at the same slide only, you can look, for example, now closer actually. This is the bottom is the recorded one actually. Recorded data basically from Fourier spectra we got this site amplification actually. This is for here for 10 degree, if you see that at the center we are getting 3 peaks, which is something similar to what we observed in the recorded motion actually. And if you look at between edge and middle, this is the recorded actually. The similar way, of course, there is a slight difference low frequency, but high frequency cases we are getting more or less similar figures actually, similar peak actually. The details only is given the peak at which frequency it is occurred actually. And similarly for at the edge, you can see that the 2 peaks are identified here, even though there is a variation is there. But other cases, if you see that for 20 degree, here we are not getting 3 peaks. Here we are getting only at the middle, we are getting 2 peaks only. At the edge and middle, we are getting only single peak. Here, so variation is there. Similarly, for 30 degree slope also, there's statistically variation between the recorded one. So therefore, we have concluded that the 10 degree slope is somewhat reasonably gives the pattern actually. Amplitude wise, obviously, a large difference is there. It's obvious that our model is a simplified model. There are various other factors amplifying. Most important that it is able to predict the peaks of the, otherwise the predominant frequency is able to predict actually. So therefore, further analysis, we have taken a 10 degree slope actually. So here you can see that this is how it is matches with the same very close to frequency level. Both these things are matching actually. Here also actually. So therefore, the 10 degree slope basin is basically simulate the behavior of Kutch basin actually. Therefore, further we have done analysis. Of course, this where we have done only for validation purpose only one recorded motion, Shivalaka motion only, but there is high frequency content. But what could be the effect of other frequency content? Generally, low frequency content. Therefore, we have selected about 5 frequency, 5 earthquake input motion actually. It is shown the recorded station, magnitude, as well as epicentral distance. Ground acceleration also varies actually. The predominant frequency also varies actually. So, for example, Kobe and Imperial, Kobe is little low frequency content. Sivalaka and other thing, high frequency content. And the duration, significant duration, cutoff frequency, the element size based on the electric, it is shown that actually. So first we will discuss about the PGA amplification factor. Basically, we are talking about horizontal amplitude only, PGA horizontal direction actually. You can see that for different input motion, we will be having different response types, amplification. The maximum and also this 0.5 is the center actually. This is the center between edge. This is the edge actually. So the maximum amplification what you are finding occurs is about 1.5 to 2.5 at the base in center actually. And the high frequency and low amplitude input motion exhibit higher PGA amplification than exhibit higher PGA amplification along the entire basin surface actually. This is a vertical T-ground accretion in vertical component amplification factor actually. Here, if you look at the amplification factors are less than the PGA amplification factor, it varies from 1.1 to 1.7 in the basin center and also between the center and the edge region actually. But there is a variation between, depends on the frequency, input motion actually. Most important that the frequency content actually. You can see that frequency content is highly varies actually. For example, high frequency content, if you see that Fourier amplitude is low only, that is blue actually. So red color you see that is Kobe earthquake, low frequency content actually. So one is that the widest, what you call, so larger Fourier amplitude occurs for the low frequency amplitude actually here 1.6 like that actually. So the Fourier spectra shift from a narrow band from the, this basin edge you are getting a slightly narrow band actually, but between the center and edge and basic center you can see that the Fourier spectra shifted actually with the wider band actually. It means that at wider frequency or large range of frequencies the amplitude can be occurs. But in the case of basin edge, only at a very narrow range only, that is about 2 Hz only, it can occur actually. It means that superposition of surface of various frequency at the basin center as well as center region only, it causing the shifting of the Fourier spectra or frequency content. And you can show that the predominant frequency, so predominant frequency for Sivalaka motion only is a very high you are getting. But other cases, if you see that the frequency is relatively low only, too, but here we are getting very high predominant frequency actually. And the range is 2.2 to 3.5 all input motion. This range we are talking about 2 to 3.5. Except this 2 to 3.5 is basically matching with the fundamental frequency of the site obtained from the only linear wave propagation analysis. Only linear analysis approximating the average air velocity and knowing thickness. If you calculate the site frequency or site period, you can find that you will be getting in this range actually. And it is basically shows that how approximately the number of stories of building related to the fundamental frequency. So basically the fundamental frequency building 3 to 5 lie in this range actually. So therefore 3 to 5 story building are more vulnerable to earthquake in this Kutch region actually. This is a significant duration actually. So it's a duration also is very important whether the earthquake finally it is number of cases the duration increases due to the site local site effect as well as basin. A significant duration increase about 30 to 50% for medium frequency imperial earthquake actually, as well as high frequency input motion Sivalaka. But at low frequency, it is not much different, only very minor, only 5 to 10%. And also we have done one-dimensional site response analysis using SHADE program. Traditionally, the ground response analysis carried out using SHADE program only. So therefore, we would like to start to compare with this result. So 1D analysis, 20 locations of the basin at regular intervals considered. Actually, that's what is shown here. This is the same shear velocity profile adapted for the 2D analysis, same geotechnical data as well as geophysical data was adapted. You can see that here, the comparison, the red color is show one-dimensional analysis, the black color is to the two-dimensional analysis. And three cases actually. Basin edge, basin center and edge, basin center actually. You can see that all the cases you are getting, this is time step acceleration. All the cases you are getting higher amplification at the basin center, we are getting from the 2D to one-dimensional. It is very obvious that one-dimensional analysis is not able to simulate the otherwise what you are getting that the one-dimensional analysis already we all know that it's only considering one-dimensional shear wave propagation only, but because of the addition to that surface is generated, so therefore we are getting a very larger amplification at the basin edge that will be obtaining from the 2D analysis. Is very clearly demonstrated here that the importance of the two-dimensional analysis in comparison to the one-dimensional analysis actually. And also you can see that the Fourier amplitude frequency content, you can see that. And the red color, you can see very low level Fourier amplitude. It means the energy content is very less, but in the case of 2D analysis, we are getting spreaded as well as larger Fourier amplitude. It obviously it gives a larger what you call energy content that is not reflected from the one-dimensional analysis. So one-dimensional analysis failed to capture the surfaces generated by 2D basin effect. This very clearly shows this importance of the 2D analysis in the basin area actually. Otherwise, our microresonance maps also have to consider, otherwise we can see that a large variation can happen. This is basically the spectral ordinate from 2D to one-dimensional. That is what we call the aggregation factor. So it shows the spectral acceleration. This is for the spectral acceleration ratio. You can see that this is at the center. The spectral velocity, how it varies along the basin actually. 10 degree slope, this is, and 20 degree slope, this is 30 degree slope actually. So short period structures, so basically we are getting higher aggregation factor for basin center actually. For medium period structures, the higher aggregation factor we are getting. For long period structures at the edges actually. So this very clearly indicate that the short period structures and is more vulnerable to earthquake at basin center actually. The long period structures at the basin edge as per this analysis actually. So of course, two-dimensional analysis done not only by us in several basins in the world. Of course, India, we are one of the few studies carried out on 2D analysis for the basin effect. But internationally, of course, there are various basins are studied by 2D modeling. But currently, there is an attempt also to study the 3D numerical model that may consider more realistic wave propagation pattern actually. So here, the problem is that even 2D analysis is taking a long time for computationally. So it's very difficult to do 3D analysis. Therefore, for 3D numerical modeling, we will be doing by spectral element method actually. There are few studies already carried out by internationally the basin effect by spectral element method. Here we have considered the larger domain actually 200 to 140 kilometers. You can see that among that the region outside the basin is considered. But what we consider this 45 to 75 is due to the symmetry. This region only considered for the analysis. The entire region was divided to large number of perceptible elements actually, propagating frequency up to 1 Hertz actually. This is a polynomial degree obtained from the wavelength. soil model. Earlier we are assumed as elastoplastic. This is viscoplastic model only, linear model only. And measured shear velocity, these are the parameters we assumed as so up to 1,500 meter soil we have taken 500. Then we have taken 3 kilometer rock 1,000 actually. And input motion here we have given vector wavelet actually. Of course, the simulation done by the cluster using 124 parallel processor actually. Single simulation will itself takes 90 hours. Of course, it was done high computing facility available at IIT Madras. Fused analysis.
Sorry to disturb, sir, because time is running out, sir. Please try to conclude.
I will complete a few slides, 1 or 2 slides only available. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So there are some of the results show that how the PVA at a different location varies. The 3D linear analysis also shows the effect of basin effect at different locations actually. Amplification according to the linear theory, 3-dimensional theory, the amplification of 2.4 to 3.6 times occurs at the lateral and longitudinal across actually. Highest amplification of 3.6 occurred at the 3D basin actually. So currently we are in progress to do a nonlinear analysis 3D. So for that, currently we are involved actually. So with that, I would like to conclude that. So based on the numerical model, we are similar to 2D model with the shallow basin. With the depth width ratio 0.05 and slope 10 degrees is literally comparable with the frequency content of the recorded motion actually. The numerical model captured the amplification variation. However, the model over predicts the amplification. And they developed a Gaussian model subject to different earthquake motion recorded across the world. So significant amplification as high as 2 times the rock outcrop of the center and region between the occurs actually. And 2D analysis also, 3D analysis, linear analysis shows also a multiple basin effect in the significant amplification observed. The structures with the period 1.5 to 2.6 around the entire ledger is found to be critical actually. So finally, I acknowledge the Dr. Pankit Mandal, Principal Scientist of NGRI. He has shared with the valuable data, strong motion data, as well as geophysical data with us actually. Without his help, we would not have validated our model. And also I thank Dr. Hilario Masseria. He is associating with us for spectral element model because he is basically mathematician only, because there are a lot of mathematical aspects involved in the spectral element. So there, of course, the spectral element code is actually developed by the group only. So they are also helping us to use the spectral element code actually. And finally, acknowledge the use of the computer sources at the high power computing facility available at IIT Madras. Thank you very much. Sorry, I took more time.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
The timer is
for such a nice lecture on numerical modeling of earthquake ground motion in different basins, because these are really, it's very important, particularly when we are going to construct some large infrastructure, and particularly where there's a soft soil with thick sediments. And you rightly mentioned that how important is 1D analysis is probably not sufficient, and how important is 2D and 3D. Thank you very much for very excellent lectures. Maybe time is short for such interesting lecture. Maybe we can discuss later on. So now I request my co-chair, Dr. Kalyan, to please see that if some questions are there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, it's a very nice lecture, sir. Gunnar, sir. Some questions are there. They are asking about some publications about your basin point of view. I will share your email ID to the participants, sir. They will communicate with you personally, sir. And as a co-chair, I am having one question only, sir, because for the finite difference method point of view, by using the flat 2D, it is better to go for the two-dimensional analysis or three-dimensional analysis, sir, for the basin point of view.
Actually, originally we are supposed to do 3D only, but later on find that it is very time-consuming process to study this large-scale problem using flat 3D actually. Therefore, we are going for spectral imaging method actually. We have like a FLAC, we have SEM code also available actually commercially. Okay. So the large size problem, this
Okay.
problem difficult to study by
Three-dimensional analysis
by
point of
FLAC.
view.
Actually. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's very difficult. We have attempted. Actually, our original objective is three-dimensional because basically it's a three-dimensional only. Then we are going for two-dimensional. Okay. Of course, compared to one-dimensional, two-dimensional is better. As of no. Of course, there are some cases we have to consider also three-dimensional. Obviously, FLAC 3D may not be effective to study this large-scale problem by three-dimensional approach.
For the site response analysis point of view, ground motion point of view, can I go with the Shake 2000 or deep soil, sir? Which one is better for me for the analysis point of view?
I think deep soil it is considered the pressure dependent modulus reduction and damping course, particularly if you go there. If you that is one aspect actually. Then also there you can do also nonlinear analysis also there. Here equal and linear, they are more rigorously nonlinear analysis. But for routine analysis, of course, Shake 2000 is preferred.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
It is more valid. Both are widely used actually, but Shake 2000, are widely accepted in the practice, particularly where you have one-dimensional. If you are able, you don't have basin or rocky topography plain area. Therefore, there obviously the Shake both can work Shake 2000. And also we know that advantage through Shake program we can do also liquefaction analysis also we can do directly using SPT data, CPT data. I am doubtful whether from deep soil whether we can have to do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Because we are running short of some time also. Now I am going to hand over to Sarkar sir only, sir. Sir, please, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Bhuminathan. So it's a wonderful lecture and yeah, it's good. So I hand over to Dr. Raghubir Rao.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of the organizing committee, we thank the speakers and the chair and co-chair for effectively conducting the session. Thank you all. And we will join for the next plenary session. Thank you. Thank you all.